In this video, we're going to dive into the heart of modern warfare, where artificial intelligence is turning everything upside down. Imagine two armies standing face to face under completely equal conditions. In terms of the number of tanks, drones, fighter jets, and anything else you can think of, they are absolutely equal. Only one army uses artificial intelligence, while the other is commanded by humans. In the end, we'll examine how these two armies would fight each other and ultimately which one could come out on top. Overall, let's find out what role artificial intelligence is playing in today's wars around the world. For example, how much has it influenced the Israel-Hamas war, or what has it done in the Ukraine-Russia war? And based on what it has done so far, let's try to guess what impacts artificial intelligence could have on future wars. Greetings to you all. I'm Ilyas Farokh. This is Persian Trend. And if you want to know what kind of power artificial intelligence can give to the world's armies, be sure to watch this video until the end. Let's start with the question. How can you predict a war before it even begins? The answer can be summed up in two words: artificial intelligence. In the Ukraine war, before Russia's attack in February 2022, the American intelligence community used AI systems to analyze satellite data, phone communications, and even economic activity. What did they find? Strange patterns in troop movements, unusual fuel purchases near the border, and suspicious conversations. What was the result? Months in advance, the Americans warned the world that Putin was preparing to attack. Without AI, this analysis might have taken weeks and would have completely caught Ukraine and Europe off guard. Now let's move on to Gaza. In the war with Hamas, the Israelis used an artificial intelligence system called Lavender, an AI program that processed mobile phone data, people's locations, and even social networks to determine who might be connected to Hamas. According to a report by Padin 972 magazine, this system has so far identified more than 37,000 people as potential targets, from senior Hamas fighters to ordinary people who had only a single suspicious call. Its speed is unbelievable. What a human team might be able to do in several days, AI accomplishes in just a few hours. Now that I've talked about the advantages of artificial intelligence, let me tell you about its downsides as well. This immense power doesn't always come without a cost. For example, in the Ukraine-Russia war, although it predicted that the Russians were likely planning an attack, it also made a mistake and the AI guessed that this was probably just a large military exercise. Something that we now know was completely wrong, and the Russians were actually planning, as they put it, a military operation or a full-scale war against Ukraine. AI, or artificial intelligence, is dependent on data, and if the data is incomplete, it will likely make incorrect analyses. The same thing is happening in Gaza as well. The Gaza Ministry of Health has stated that since October 2023, more than 34,000 people have been killed. It's unclear how many of them were actually fighters and how many were victims of AI misidentification. The real question that arises here is whether using AI in wars is ethical. Or is it worth it to kill a number of innocent people just for the sake of speed? People who may have had no role in that war and were simply victims of a computational error by a computer system. If you think that such mistakes in war are inevitable, you should consider that these inevitable mistakes could just as easily happen to you. Would you still analyze it the same way and say, well, that's just war? Or would you get angry then? Now, let's move on to another aspect of AI that's truly changing warfare: autonomy, or rapid decision-making. In Ukraine, the Ukrainians use Turkish-made Bayraktar drones equipped with AI, which can, in collective situations, meaning when the enemy is jamming signals, find the target on their own and destroy it. For example, in the spring of 2022, these drones were able to destroy Russian armored columns near Kyiv. Reports say that over 100 tanks and missile launchers were destroyed in just a few weeks because the AI was able to act quickly, even when communication with the pilot was lost. Another example comes from Israel in the Gaza war. The army used AI-equipped drones like the Heron to locate Hamas's underground tunnels. These tunnels were used for smuggling weapons and launching surprise attacks. According to the Israeli army, during Operation Guardian of the Walls in 2021, AI was able to map out these tunnels in just a few days. Without artificial intelligence, this task might have taken weeks. With this information, commanders were able to quickly decide where to bomb or where to send troops. Now let's look at the other side. The Russians are also using AI drones like the KUB-BLA in Ukraine. These drones claim they can independently identify and strike moving targets. For example, in Donbass, it has been reported that these drones attacked Ukrainian supply lines. But there is also a major problem: accuracy. In one case in 2023, it was reported that a Russian drone mistakenly attacked a village, killing several civilians. It's unclear whether the AI malfunctioned or its data was incomplete. This autonomy is a double-edged sword. On one hand, its speed and accuracy can change the course of the war. On the other hand, if it makes a mistake or gets hacked, it can cause major problems. In Gaza, there are reports that Israeli drones during autonomous operations attacked areas where civilians were present because the AI failed to identify them correctly. In Ukraine as well, if the enemy hacks the AI systems, the drones might turn against their own forces. These risks are real and can't be ignored. One of the most important issues in war is the question of ethics. When AI or artificial intelligence decides to kill a group of people, who is responsible for it? For example, media reports have stated that during the Gaza war and the attacks carried out by the Israelis against Hamas, the Lavender system suggested targets that even the Israelis themselves suspected might be incorrect, yet they still carried out these attacks, resulting in civilian casualties. Even the Israelis themselves have admitted that as many as 10% of the targets identified by the Lavender system could be incorrect. In other words, out of every 10 people they killed, one of them was probably a mistake. But still, they went ahead and did it. For example, in October 2023, a house in Jabalia was bombed and more than hundreds of people were killed. Many of them were women and children. The Israeli army claims that the human always makes the final decision. But when the AI provides a target list and the commander just presses the button, can we really say who made the decision? The same question exists in Ukraine as well. If a TB2 drone mistakenly attacks a relief truck, who is to blame? Is it the company that manufactures these drones, the AI programmers, or the commander who trusted the system? In one case in 2022, it was reported that a Ukrainian drone attacked a group of civilians and killed 8 people. The military said it was a technical error, but that answer isn't enough for the victims' families. Another issue is that AI can make war even more inhumane. When a human decides to kill, there's a sense of responsibility and guilt. But when a machine makes the decision, where does that feeling go? Vladimir Putin once said that whoever leads in AI will rule the world. That statement might be true, but it makes our wars more inhumane and eliminates mercy and compassion. Wars are already cruel and inhumane as they are. Now imagine if a bunch of machines, some programs, or some computers were to decide which group of humans to eliminate or which group to leave alone. It can really be very foolish for us humans to entrust our fate to AI and let it decide which of us should stay alive and which of us should no longer exist. Now let's take a look at the future. In wars, AI is no longer just an option, it's a reality. In Ukraine, American companies are working with the military to build platforms that gather various data in one place and suggest attacks. In Israel, tech companies like Rafael are developing more advanced drones that can locate and strike a target within seconds. This technology is advancing faster than we can imagine. But here, a big question remains. How are we supposed to control this? In 2023, the United Nations tried to create an international agreement to limit autonomous weapons, but countries like Russia, the United States, and Israel opposed it. They say they don't want to fall behind in the competition. This means we're running in a new arms race, and AI is the fuel for this race. As a global society, we have to decide whether we want to let AI do whatever it wants or if we want to draw a red line. The answer to this question isn't just up to politicians, it concerns us too. We can talk about this issue through our choices by discussing it, by posting something on our Twitter, our channels, or our social media, and create a global demand. Many of you probably agree with me that if AI is left to its own devices, there's no telling what kind of harm it could bring to us humans. Of course, I don't deny that AI is truly influential in wars, and a country that can use this system or possesses AI will probably be able to win many wars. For example, to prove that such a thing is possible, or to show how much impact it can have, I've created a hypothetical scenario. Imagine there are 2 groups fighting against each other. both groups have exactly the same military capabilities. They each have the same number of tanks, they have the same number of fighter jets, they have the same number of soldiers, and everything is completely equal, something that in reality is practically impossible. But for the sake of understanding only the impact of AI, we've assumed completely equal conditions. The only difference between these two groups is in their command. Group A uses AI, or artificial intelligence, as its commander, while Group B uses a human commander. In other words, it's human intelligence that's controlling the forces. Now let's examine together what fate might await these two groups if they face off against each other. The first step is gathering information. The battle begins. Both groups send out their drones to locate the enemy. The group with AI processes satellite images, radar data, and radio signals within a few minutes and creates an accurate map of Group B's positions. 30 tanks behind the hill, 10 tanks near the river, and the artillery in the south. Group B also has drones, but their commanders have to manually review the images and draw the map themselves. This process takes at least an hour, and during this time they only manage to find half of Group A's positions. Who wins this round? Definitely Group A, because they gathered information faster and more accurately. The second step is decision-making and planning. Group A, with the help of AI, immediately suggests an attack. It sends 10 drones to attack the tanks behind the hill and orders its 20 tanks to move toward the river. It prepares the artillery for support. These suggestions are prepared within a few seconds, taking into account logistics, ammunition, and geographical position. Group B is still discussing. The commanders are sitting, looking at the map, consulting with each other, and after 30 minutes, they decide to send 15 tanks forward and keep the rest back. Here, Group A pulls ahead again because their decision is faster and more optimal. The third step is execution and attack. Group A begins the attack. The AI drones operate autonomously in enemy territory and destroy 8 out of 10 tanks behind the hill. With AI support, their tanks know exactly where to go, and within 20 minutes, they surround the tanks by the river. Group B also attacks at the same time, but because their information is incomplete, half of their tanks fall into Group A's trap and are destroyed. Group B's drones are also grounded because of the terrain since they aren't autonomous. Here, Group A is winning the field because it has better speed and coordination. Step 4. Assessment and response. Group A's AI immediately analyzes the damages. The enemy has lost 25 tanks and half of its drones. Now it's time to send in the artillery and finish the job. This analysis is ready within a few minutes. Group B is still collecting reports from the soldiers and doesn't know exactly what has happened on the battlefield. By the time the information is gathered, Group A has already destroyed their entire defensive line with its artillery. At this point, Group B doesn't stand a chance anymore. In this battle, Group A completely destroys its enemy with AI, because at every step, from gathering information to attacking and responding, it has stayed ahead of the opponent and managed to do its job with less error. On the other hand, Group B could never compete with Group A because it is much slower than artificial intelligence and simply can't match its speed. But there's another issue here as well. What if the AI made a mistake? For example, what if the drones in Group A, which are controlled by AI, mistakenly attacked their own side or were hacked and caused damage to their own forces? What would the outcome of the war be then? If that happened, it could completely reverse the outcome of the war. So AI is good if it works correctly, but if it makes a mistake, it can ruin everything. Now, the discussion is about command, AI, tools, and reaction speed. Let's not forget that just recently, a rapid response team was searching for our missing president, meaning Ibrahim Raisi, when his helicopter had crashed and, well, no one could find him. Imagine if such a think tank or command room were to try to lead a major war, or if they were to consider our wartime situation and carry out the right attacks. Just see what kind of disaster could potentially happen. But in the end, I want to ask you, do you think AI should be allowed in wars? Or do you think it should be restricted and not allowed to destroy human lives? Do you think this technology could be dangerous for us in the future, or even lead to the extinction of humanity? Or do you consider these things to be just myths or the stuff of science fiction movies? I read all your comments and will respond to them as much as possible. Until the next video, take care.